I have Bally on right now. I watching them celebrate in the locker room with the champagne and the beer. I mean, it feels like it was just yesterday that we were, celebrating those runs of the late 2000s and the early teens. Um, it's crazy. It really is. It's crazy to see something like this, and now they have that shithead Chris Ilitch on the screen right now. That guy can completely get fucked, not to ruin the moment or anything like that, but Bally's did put him on there. And now Benetti is interviewing him. I can't fucking stand that guy. Um,
Before we go down there, we'll save that for another time. So I'm gonna rewind back to earlier in the day today, um, because we've been talking a lot last night, and we've been talking about how these weird things keep happening. And there was a fun stat yesterday in the Marlins Twins game that never seemed to fucking end last night about how the Marlins had 20 strikeouts, 15 men left on base, all this, didn't hit a home run, and yet they still beat the fucking Twins, right? And
yep.
because when you think about that, there's a thing of destiny. And for those that know, I work in Detroit on the east, like the east side of Detroit, by where the Packard plant's at. I go to Wendy's often, buy lunch at Gresham and Van Dyke. It's on the corners. I was driving in this afternoon. I was thinking about um, my mom's birthday in 2011 because that night
Hmm.
the Tigers were in Oakland and they clinched the AL Central on a run. They ended the season a lot like this team. They ran away with that division at the end of the year. And to then, feel motivated. Like, yeah, if those that are wondering, I'm bringing back an old Detroit City look from a couple of years ago in shops. So right now I got this Jake Rogers type tribute thing going right now, but soon it'll be this and that. But um I asked you right when that final out. I thought about going, and I'm kind of glad I didn't go because that means we get to celebrate this moment. You know, practically my brother from another mother on that over there taking in this moment right now. And I think what's really fucking cool about it is like Sal, our brother for our post match recast for Detroit City is there. Pamela's there. A lot of people are fucking there. And I think about you know a sold out crowd tonight, and I think about the celebrations in the locker room. And you and I were like, are we doing it? We're like, we gotta wait. And we're like, you and I are both feeling the same. And I don't know about you, but that moment when Benetti's interviewing Jason Foley, and you see the beer showers, and then you look behind him, and it's fucking, it's AJ Hinch, and then they hold it to give a hug. And I think in that moment, as that got me, as it's getting me now, just fucking talking about it, because it's something special here. Um, it's the only few times I feel like this lately have either been Detroit City related when they like beat the Crew, or um, Christmas Eve when the Lions won the division, or when they beat the Rams in the playoffs, and almost when they beat the Bucks, and everything in that moment. And to go through this run, to see this team just say fuck it, let's see what happens.
This team reminds me of a lot of that, and I don't know if we've mentioned this before because this is what the second or third time this week that we've done one of these. Um, it reminds me of that 2016,
Yeah,
and how
just younger.
just a younger team, uh, does have some talent, but heading into that season, they were largely written off,
Yeah,
considering where they were almost immediately coming from. I mean, there were a few seasons removed from 2003, but still, nobody anticipated that Tigers team to go on the run that they did. and they did it over the course of an entire season, not just over the course of well, they really did do it over the course of an entire season since they ended up losing the division lead and had to settle for the wild card. But like I
They were
mentioned this in the last
70 and 36 that year, and then
yeah, and I
finished
mentioned
23 and 33.
yeah, and I mentioned this in the last episode, but um, it just and then looking at doing the whole juxtaposition with between that team and this team, and I see some similarities. I mean, you see some similarities between the two teams as far as the type of talent, um, the players that were there, because even with that team, you had a young Justin Verlander coming up. I think I don't know if he was a rookie that season or if it was a
He
second year.
was. This was his. He had some time the season prior, but this is his first full on rookie year. I think he won
You know,
rookie.
you had a young Joel Zumaya, and I just you again you look at the parallels with a guy like Tarek Skubal, who's gonna probably win the AL Cy Young Award this year.
Right.
And I know Jackson Jobe hasn't had he's appeared in one inning for this team, but even him going out there, and you look at at that appearance that he made the other night, and
The crowd was buzzing.
the crowd was buzzing. And what is he? He's 22 years old, coming, just being thrown into a spot in the middle of a pennant chase, and having to get those final three outs. And granted, too, the Tigers were up 7-1, I believe, in that game, and they were going to take him out if he did get into any trouble. I think Hinch had Foley warming up in the pen just in case, but he didn't need it. He didn't need it. He went out there, he shut down the Rays in that inning, and that was just one more step in this run to finally clinch, which happened tonight. But again, there's just so many crazy things that happen, and crazy in a good way,
Yeah,
that happened this since August and through September, and now as as October's ready to start next week. um it's incredible. I mean, nobody has ever seen anything like this before.
and
um
it's a
Nobody has seen, well, nobody who is um nobody our age, nobody younger than us has ever seen anything like this before. And
yeah,
not and if you have seen it before, and if you were around and you were paying attention in 1973 when the Mets did it, that was the only other time that it's been done.
yeah,
The last time it was done before that was never, never. No other team besides the 73 Mets and now the 2024 Tigers, who were 8 or more games under 500, after 115 total games played, were able to rally and get to the postseason. It's never happened before except for those two times. Not only did people see the Tigers go to their first postseason or clinch their first postseason tonight, but since 2014, but they witnessed history in another sense tonight, that they became the first team since the 73 Mets to do all that aforementioned stuff that I just mentioned. And
the
not
Chicago
only
White
that,
Sox,
they hand the White Sox the 121st loss of the season, giving them the mark for futility in the modern baseball era since 1900,
and somebody
surpassing the 62 Mets.
and our first year broadcaster who somehow them and the White Sox parted ways with going into this off season, and now with us got to be on the call for that in the locker room for those celebrations. It's a
They lowballed Benetti, and Benetti was scooped up by the Tigers, and he got in a sense, some revenge himself. I mean, you can't script this, dude. You can't make this stuff up.
nope.
I mean, just the story. Even last night, Garrett, what happened last night in
Yes,
that Twins game against the Marlins? You in that one play. in the 10th inning when the Twins were ready to win that game. They
Yep.
had, I believe, bases loaded. Um, what happened? You had Willie Castro fly out to Derek Hill, who had to make an amazing grab and the wherewithal to get it back in to the infield to hold the Twins to 1 run. And who was on the call? Rod
Right.
Allen.
And
So
I
you
was
had you had former Tiger after former Tiger after former Tigers broadcaster. Just, I mean, it's just it is so. It's just you just can't put it into words just how crazy like
it's destiny.
everything is about this.
It's destiny. And
Yeah,
that's
it's
and that's the beautiful thing about it. And it's one thing to be. It's like Angels in the Outfield when JP was always saying it can happen, right? And that was kind of like us. That was me kind of bullshitting a little bit, like sarcastically, after Williamsport, after ESPN dropped that stat line, after we could have swept the Mariners in Seattle, but dropped the ball on a dive and let 3 runs score when we were 2 runs up with 2 out, and that was the game. Or these little things here and there, but it can happen. Believe that group of people believe. You see, like you talk about adversity. Think of Spencer Torkelson. I think of Parker Meadows. I think of guys that had gone down during the season and then come back up.
that's another thing too. I mean, that's
And
another thing.
it's like you see guys like Rogers and like you see Scooble having that moment, and Riley, and um, like guys that even in there, taking in that moment. I loved it that Tyler Holton got to start the 9th inning. I thought that guy, if you want to talk about like I was talking with Yowdy, I was talking with both brothers. By the way, you're gonna love this. Even though, so we for those that have seen prior majors stuff, Detroit City Sportscast. So we had in the Feldbush household, you have Yowdy, who's a baseball baseball even more people love it than we are. Who's he's enjoying it right now. He's in there, and his brother, who's admitted to not really loving baseball. Guess what? Guess what, y'all? He's in. He's been like on there. I'm like, you in? He's like, I'm in. I'm like, I
How
go.
can he not be? How can he
I'm like,
not
you're
be?
getting mentioned. He goes, you're getting mentioned on there tonight. He goes, bring it on. He goes, that's a cool thing. So it's like, I mean, when you want to know what's really fucking cool, also too about this, and I don't think they even see. I don't think. Granted, Twitter was new, but I don't think this uniformity amongst the Detroit teams. Detroit City. I granted all your social media teams probably in Monterey or at Comerica or probably at the bar right now. If you're not in Monterey or at Comerica, um, tweet something about them gritty tigers, y'all. But you look at the Detroit Red Wings and all those guys and their warm up skate treats. They put the fucking game on at LCA to get that final out. And that crowd went, dude, it's special. It's, this is a wave right now. Um, I want to say this is unique because we just had this in a way with the Lions in a way, but it's a little bit different, right? Because it's the Tigers thing now. They're doing it their way, and we're buying it all in. And I think some of the calls that I've seen Jason Benetti talk about the generations. He had a great moment post. You had Dan Petrie in the booth with him. You had Andy Dirks in the booth with him, and he was talking about how Dan Petrie's on the Roar of '84 team. Andy Dirks has had World Series moments with this team, and you see everything. There's connections with people one by one, and there's something about yeah, the Lions is like maybe the sickos on that, right? But there's always a connection. I feel like somebody in your family, different generations, has a Tiger story, and when they get it right, believe it or not, the Lions have often made more playoff runs in 50 years than the Tigers have. But when the Tigers get it right and they have moments that you remember, if you don't win a World Series, you have 68. You have '06, you have 2012. My favorite Tiger teams was my favorite Tiger team is probably 2011 because we were so fucking good late in that year. Valverde 49 for 49 in saves. We just run into a buzzsaw called Nelson Cruz and the fucking Texas Rangers in the ALCS. 2013, where two mistakes where we pitched a great series. We just couldn't hit when the time came up against that Red Sox team. And you know, then there's the good moments. You know, one of the three Detroit sports teams won a title in 1935. The Tigers, the Red Wings, the Lions. You have 1945, Hank Greenberg coming home from World War II. Tigers beat the Cubs, the Billy Goat curse, right? All that stings in there. 68, coming from 3-1 down, Mickey Lolich winning 3 games in a World Series. And the roar of 84. I mean, now we're here. This 31-11 run, this improbable run, this whatever story, Grady Tigers, whatever, roar of 24, whatever you want to call it. We're in something special, something that's unique for this time frame right now, something that's unique for this fan base, something that's unique for this Tigers team. And could it be the start of the beginning of many more future moments with whether this team and that? Potentially. There's time and place to talk about that. But for once, we got to take it in, savor it, breathe
Yeah,
the
and I
moment.
love yeah, and I loved I love the shout out to the tribute in a way to Ernie Harwell that Benetti did because
Yeah,
he threw it out there and he said, you know, other teams um stood still like a house on the side of the road as the Tigers surpassed them by. And I'm paraphrasing that a little bit, but
yeah,
obviously that's you know a tribute to the late Ernie Harwell and you know what Ernie would usually say when you know a batter was caught looking at the plate, and that was really cool. And yeah, it's you know and I don't know what's going to happen once the postseason comes around next Tuesday. The Orioles right now they're 4-0 over the Twins, so um
Royals lost in Atlanta tonight,
Royal lost to Atlanta tonight.
so that
I mean,
means
so right now it's looking like we may face the Orioles in the first round. Um, and again, I you know what?
don't matter.
I don't care who we play in the first round. I don't care if it's the Astros. I don't care if it's the Orioles. We made it, and this is the first step in really truly changing you know the culture surrounding this team because we always talked about you know changing the culture with the Lions and what really did that it was the run at the end of 2022,
Yeah,
and even though they didn't make the playoffs this year they set themselves up for the next season, and they finally changed that culture. You needed that one time and point in history for that team to do that, and that was it right there.
yeah,
Even though they weren't going to make it, and they knew it going into that last game in Green Bay of the regular season, they still played that game like it was a playoff game, and
yeah,
they played spoiler, kept Green Bay out of the playoffs that year, and just picked up right where they left off essentially that following season. And the Lions are are who they are now
right.
because of that change in culture. And we see what Dan Campbell and everything and Ben Johnson and Brad Holmes has been able to do with that team since then. And even now with the Tigers, you need a point in history, and I think we got it tonight. We got it tonight, and we have some of those pieces set in place, like a Riley Green, like a Tarek Skubal, like a Colt Keith, um, and even you know we have our coaches in place, an AJ Hinch, a Chris Fetter, you know, running parallel to Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson. We have our man in the front office. We have our Scott Harris, like we have our Brad Holmes. Obviously, Scott Harris has more to work on as far as kind of putting his stamp on this team, like Brad Holmes has done with the Lions. But still, it seems like we have that.
And not only
Um,
that, too, we don't even Tyler Holden, Jason Foley, Jackson Joe, Max, and then a bunch of Trace Sweeney, and we have a bunch of kids waiting in the wings.
yeah,
Lorenzo, Clark.
yeah,
Uh,
and I mean, some of these guys too. You don't know. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, but obviously, there's plenty of room for improvement when it comes to this Tigers team. Is Jace Jung going to be that third baseman, or are they going to go out and get like an Alex Bregman in the offseason? Um, where does Spencer Torkelson fit into this team in the long term? Um,
and Ibanez, too.
Abani, Trey Sweeney is another one. I mean, is Trey Sweeney going to be the shortstop of the future? I don't know.
But we
You
can talk
know,
about that, and I think that's the thing. We have time to talk about that.
we have time to talk about that. And that's the thing. We don't have to talk about that right now because the season isn't over. That's the most beautiful thing about this. The season isn't over. We don't have to talk about the off season yet. We don't have to talk about what we're going to do next season yet. Um, because the Tigers, what we have to talk about is the Tigers in the division or the wild card round, um, against the Orioles or against the Houston Astros. That's what we get to talk about, and that's what's beautiful about all of this right now.
Yeah, because Jeremy Churchman asked me before we went on in one of our chats, like, who would I rather want? We were 2-4 against the Astros earlier in series when the Astros weren't fully clicking to be, or we were not where we're at. And there's good story, and there's good juicy stories in that line, right? Playing potential to pitch it, go up against Justin Verlander in a playoff series. AJ Hinch returning to Houston, uh,
Mhm.
but we have recent history with Baltimore, 2 series, and regardless of who we got, Tarek School was on the mound on Tuesday, October 1st.
Yep, and that was so key. I mean, that's and even the lead up to all of this, Tarek Skubal winning that first game in that Rays series, which is so pivotal
Just
because
out of his mind that day, really
yeah,
did.
because yeah, because if he didn't win that game and if the Tigers were to waste that start, then there becomes a very real possibility that you would have had to use them in this White Sox series, which you did
Right.
not want to do. Um, But
Um,
obviously that wasn't the case. In that win was so pivotal for them, and just because it set things up for the team to where you could start him in that game one. And you know what? The Tigers rotation, for all the issues that they had, the second half of the season, I use issues like it's a bad thing, but just the way that they had to set things up with Skubal and extend his rest,
because you're now
which
in Holt, you're starting with Holton or starting with Madden or starting
yeah,
with
yeah,
Grace.
I mean even tonight they had to do a bullpen day in a game where you're trying to clinch your first postseason since 2014. I mean that usually does not happen. Usually on games like tonight, you have one of your guys from the top end of your rotation starting.
And you want
And
to know
that did
what the
not
funny thing?
happen tonight. And you know what? They fucking won. They won 4-1 over a White Sox team who, albeit set the record tonight for most losses in a season, but are coming off of a sweep of the LA Angels,
Yeah,
and who were certainly not looking to set that record tonight
not
or
just
make
that,
things easy for the Tigers.
not just that with a bullpen. You only gave up 1 run on a solo shot and 3 hits.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
And and again, it's just something else that just adds to the just it just adds to just how crazy things are with this team. And
yeah,
again, you have trouble putting it into words because again, maybe the closest thing that we have to compare this to is, and it's not even another Tigers team. I mean, is this the 2002 Oakland Athletics Moneyball team? Is this what this is right now?
Oh, one oh
Um,
two that won 100 games back to back years and all that stuff.
yeah, that was coming off that loss to the Yankees in the I believe that was in the postseason. It was the Jeter play out of nowhere where
Oh,
they,
that was in '01, I think,
yeah,
because the Yankees beat them. They beat the 114 winning Mariners, and then took the D-backs to Game 7. If I recall, that was that World Series.
yeah.
They were trying to three-peat. The Yankees were trying to.
Maybe this is what that is, and then afterward, they go and they get and then they lose Jason Isringhausen, they lose Jason Giambi, they lose Johnny Damon. Um,
Zito.
they and even that following year they ended up trading Carlos Pena to the Tigers. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the comparison that we have as far as something that's a little bit more recent. And even that was over 20 years ago. So
I think
um
they remind me a bit of, I feel like I feel like that Rays team in '08. Gordon's, your Hosmers, Perez, all those guys.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. Do you start Jackson Job tomorrow? Why the hell not? I would have been so pissed off if they rolled out City Connects tonight for this. if we had to watch them clinch a postseason berth, clinch a wild card spot wearing those fucking god awful City Connect jerseys, I would have been pissed because that would have
So I
been
didn't
that.
wear I didn't wear any gear today because I was like, all right, the City Connect fit is it's not the City Connect's like my home fit. I had to get my home, even though it's a fitted. I had to go to Henry the Hatter. Shout out to them, Eastern Market, great place. Even if you have Tigers hats and need some work, they'll do it. Talk baseball with them. They're fucking dialed in like we are. But I didn't do that. And then I saw the graphic, right? And I saw it was virulent in like the celebration. I was like, wait a minute, are we wearing the whole? I'm like, and then today's a shampoo condition day, so I was like, I gotta let the world hear it. So I was like, navy long sleeve it is. But it's celebration moments. Like I'm going back into highlights, and I've even seen Johnny Kane getting fucking drenched. And no, it's great to see this. It's great to see these vibes. It's great to see meaningful baseball now, not just in September, but in October. And I really hope, for the sake of everybody that's been on this ride, not just obviously AJ Hinch and the gang and the boys, but those that have been taking this in. It would be a damn shame if people didn't have at least two opportunities to go to Comerica Park in October to see this team in the playoffs. The only way to do that, based on because the Orioles Twins done now, or is that
Um, Let me check. I'm sure it is. This collapse from the Twins is gonna be is just incredible. Right now, the where is it? It's 7-0 Baltimore, heading into the ninth.
so? The only way that we're gonna have home baseball at Comerica Park is if we take 2 out of 3 from. I think it's going to be the Baltimore Orioles because yes, the Kansas City Royals are a tough team, and the Kansas City Royals, congratulations to them also too. Um, hell of a turnaround by them. They went from 56 wins to a 30. They're going to have a 31 turnaround. That's impressive. I'll give them credit for that. The and Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be one of the two MVP candidates in the American League. It's either going to be him or Aaron Judge. But they've struggled a little bit, and I also feel like um, the Atlanta Braves right now. For those that aren't aware, due to weather and we hope that all in the southeastern United States that are being affected by the storms going on. We hope that all are well is during this difficult time. During I'm sure difficult times. The Atlanta Braves, they're fighting for a wild card spot in the NL. The Royals have to run into them. 2 Atlanta games have been postponed with the Mets until Monday, which is a doubleheader to end their season, and that will decide what the NL wild card is going to be. So the way I see it, with the Braves beating the Royals tonight, I don't think this Tigers team is going to let up this weekend. I think they want the pressure of going to Baltimore for a 3-game with the O's again, and then if they get done with them, they get to play the Yankees. And you know what? If they want that, I'm not concerned because the way I see it, it's like how is this team feeling right now?
It's all house money, dude. It's all house money. There's no pressure on this team.
No,
All the pressure's on everybody else. This team was not supposed to be here this year. Um, everybody wrote them off. I wrote them off. Um,
I was pretty close to. I feel like
I
wanted to.
mean, it's
Wanted
just.
to.
It's just there was. Like
There
I
was,
said, there was no reason to believe that this was going to happen.
yeah,
There was no reason to believe this was going to happen whatsoever.
not just
So
31, not just 31-11. 10-1 in our last 11. Winners
Hmm.
of winners of 6 in a row. Um, just some unbelievable baseball.
Yeah.
Like the run, and everybody can talk about, oh, you played the Rockies, oh, you played the White Sox, oh, you did this. We swept the Royals in Kansas City for 3. You swept the Tampa Bay
Took 2 of 3 against the Orioles.
in Detroit and in Baltimore.
Yep. Yep.
You self-inflicted yourself in the Baltimore series multiple times, fought, withstood,
Yep.
advanced. You took you while you only won 1 of 3 in San Diego. All 3 of those games were competitive
They're
baseball.
all there. They're all basically competitive baseball games. So
Every game for the Tigers since Williamsport has been meaningful, and they just went through and withstood that. Andy Dirk said it best. They've already had 30, 40 playoff games, like games.
mhm.
What's October now going to mean to them? Nothing new, nothing new. And if you're a team in the American League that's otherwise than that, that's kind of known your fate, because even other wild card teams have known their fate for a bit because they started off so high. The Astros, because the AL West this year was like the AL Central last year. That's like a gear that they're going to have to find, and I think this Tigers team already has that gear,
Yeah.
and that means they're, I was saying, cruise. You don't want to be in cruise control, but they've gotten their tune up. They've gotten their routine maintenance checkup. Yeah, I'm going Motor City talk here. Fuck it. Um, they've done all those things, so now it's, you got here. What do you got to lose?
They have nothing to lose, and that's the great thing about this. They can go into it. They can go into it without any any pressure, and it's a team with nothing to lose, with no pressure on them. A team that who thinks they can beat anybody is going to be one of the most dangerous teams in the postseason. And again, they could go out and they could get swept in that wild card round. And if that happens, who cares? This team has gotten a has taken a step, has taken a big step into getting this turned around. And looking ahead a little bit, it's all on the front office after this. It's all on the front office for them to capitalize on what this team was able to do on the field this year, and continue to make them better. And that's it.
This is as pivotal of a year in the Detroit Tigers book, not just on the field but off the field. Promote the club as what it is, getting people to understand, getting people in the ballpark regularly, getting everything in here, making people feel good about the product, not just on the field, but watching it on TV. All these things, right?
Mhm.
This this is a huge year. This is a successful year in a lot of things for that. Now, don't just settle on that. Build from it. This is like this is a special feeling right now, and there's a wave, and it's let me remind people just how special of a moment we're here in Detroit sports right now. And we haven't talked. You know what we haven't talked about today? 25 years ago today was the last ever game played at Tiger Stadium. I remember
Yeah.
coming from school, and my grandmother put it. She had TV on. And, well, I grew up with my grandmother for most of my life on there until I was 16. And one of my moments I remember when she was alive was turning that TV on in the kitchen, and just sitting in the kitchen with her watching that Royals Tigers game. That was like 3 o'clock on a Monday afternoon, right? As an 11-year-old taking that in, being at the game to the last Saturday. I was at the last Saturday game 2 days prior. And for I said Tiger Stadium was a part of my childhood. It always is. There's something special about that. Parking your car, walking Michigan to Trumbull, then seeing the cop on horseback getting in. Was the baseball great then for us? No. But you were going to someplace special. You knew it was special when you walked in. And after that moment, we didn't have that for a few years. Then we had '06. And I was a freshman in college. And you and I've talked about, you were at game 3 in
Hmm.
the Division Series when Kenny Rogers fucking gemmed the Yankees. And then it was homecoming day at Central Michigan my freshman year, and we got done with the game, and then seeing Magglio Ordonez hit that 3-run shot to send the Detroit Tigers to the World Series. Didn't go the way we wanted to. The Cardinals were a team of destiny this year, kind of like us. Then you have 11 and 12 and 13, and 2012 we got beat by the Giants, and I'll say, while being there in 2012 at Comerica to see the Giants win a World Series sucked, it was also cool in a way because it's like you got to see history. You got to see something that not a lot of people have the opportunity to do. And then next year, and you're like, we'll be back. And then we haven't been back. Like, we made the playoffs 2 years after, but we didn't. Now we're seeing this in a kind of like '06 again, kind of like 1972 when Billy Martin led that team to the AL East title. They didn't beat the A's, but that was a team that kind of shot. I overheard my boss saying yesterday, because I was talking yesterday in our live about our new business development guy taking his daughter to the game yesterday, and seeing that, and one of our owners of the company was 6 years old in 1972. He goes, I wish my dad. I go, I'm really glad you're taking her to the game in this moment, because I really wish, like, he went in '84. He graduated in '84 from his high school, but he talked about how great it would have been if his dad took him when he was like growing up in '72, right? Like as a kid seeing that. So now I think you hear these stories, right? And now you think about all these people falling in love with the game again, getting that bug, or taking their kids and seeing this team of players that aren't much older than their children in some cases, gelling together, vibing together, fighting together. And now we sit here on September 27th, 25 years to the day after the last Tiger Stadium game, seeing maybe one of the up there top 5 to 10 Comerica Park moments right now, in the Detroit Tigers going on a run that we haven't seen in a long, long time, and who knows when we'll fucking see it again, to confirm the spot in the AL wild card. We ain't done yet, because now this is done. We get done with 2 games for the White Sox. We have a day off, which that day off will be the Lions' Monday night game against the Seattle Seahawks,
And go at it Tuesday night against Minnesota Twins are wearing their horrible City Connects right now, and bottom of the ninth, no outs, no men on. Correa's up right now, so it's just about over. But yeah,
I'm gonna say
um,
I'm gonna predict we're gonna play the Orioles.
yeah, we're probably gonna play the Orioles. And again, it doesn't matter.
Um,
Um,
those games will be on ABC and ESPN, as far as I
I
know.
don't even know yet.
From what I know, the wild card is ESPN, ABC. So I'm hoping Benetti gets picked up nationally for something, because his year should not end, in my opinion, for baseball. Um, And then, so I know that, and then TBS has ALDS rights, TBS, TNT, all that, and then Fox, I think, picks it up for, if not the World Series, then the CSs. But we gotta get through the wild card, get through this
Yep.
week,
Have
playoff.
fun with the final two games and be ready to go on Tuesday. So, but
Um, good win
yeah,
for the. Yeah. Also, another Detroit Chicago victory, wins over the Blackhawks. I didn't see what the final was, but I know
I think it
job
was
done.
I think it was 2-0.
Tarasenko getting a goal, which was nice. Fisher getting a goal. Um, Another Chicago transplant. Loving Detroit. What up, Fish? Um, Shout out to the Miami Marlins. Y'all were real ones in Minnesota this weekend. This earlier this week. Neil Roll. I want to know if Neil Roll paid for that hat or did he get a Marlins hat on the free? Who knows? But all these things, moment times on there. We're gonna take this all in. Obviously, we got Detroit City tomorrow night in Monterey Bay. We got all these things, but for the moment, the key thing that we were hoping has happened tonight. The Detroit Tigers back in the playoffs for the first time in 10 years. 31-11 in their last 42, 10-1 in their last 11. Winners of 6 in a row, and they're not done yet.
Nope.
But the playoffs await. October 1st. Tarek Skubal on the mound. You got to win 9 games to get to the World Series. Start the countdown, boys. For my brother from another mother. Well, before that, ways you can always check stuff out. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe if you haven't. Detroit.themajorsports.com. Be sure to check the live section of our YouTube at the Majors TV because we've been doing a fuck ton of live videos these last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I think this is our 5th one since last week.
Yeah, and I put the last one that we did. Um, was that last night or the night before? I put that on our podcast feed, so you can get that
Are
on
we putting
Apple Podcasts. You can get that on Apple Podcasts or Spotify as well. So, and I'll put this one on as well. So that'll be on the Detroit City Sportscast podcast feed as well on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. So
so they'll all be on there. And then TMSNX Detroit on Twitter. We've been going hot and heavy on Twitter, on the tweets, on the graphics. TMSNX Detroit on Instagram. Be on the lookout for cool stuff on there too. Um, Adam's on at TMSNX Adam. That's both his Twitter as well as his Instagram. Twitter, Instagram, Discord for me at GM Comats. Yeah, I mean Detroit City's got Monterey Bay. All this stuff is great, but right now, we're in the moment. Um, this is something special. Taking this all in for any one of the 44,000 plus that got to be at Comerica Park tonight. Great job, y'all did well. Y'all had a hand in this as well. Anybody that all players, AJ Hinch, Chris Vetter, all the coaching and all that, Benetti, Dirks, Petrie, Carlos Pena, who, by the way, was so happy. I didn't say this on Tuesday. I was leaving Comerica Park. Carlos Pena is getting ready to do the post game on the studio with Mickey York. Walk by, and I see my coworker. I'm like, pause for a moment. So I see him, Carlos Blacata, and then Carlos Pena wide with that big grin of his, and then play like Carlos Pena, real one. That moment getting up when Torque hit that home run on Wednesday, you can tell he's still, well, he was a Major League Baseball player, a really great one throughout when his time. You can tell he's still a kid when it comes to this and loves the game when he sees moments like that. All everyone, this is a special moment. It's not done yet. It's going to continue. And like I said, I haven't been this. I don't feel like I've been as emotional about even this. Might be even beat some of the Lions stuff I feel like lately, just because of how many different ways we've seen this stuff happen. So for my brother from another mother, Adam Hernandez over there, Garrett Comats over here, and for everybody that's checked this out in any of our stuff, we say thank you. We say goodnight. We'll be on who knows next time. Probably sometime next week. We're taking a break the rest of the fucking weekend. Yeah. Until next time. See ya. Eat 'em up. Varsity
See
boys. Go fucking get 'em, Tigers.